Welcome to AARP Illinois' virtual event. It's so wonderful to have you with us. AARP is on a mission to connect with individuals across various communities, especially those aged 50 and above. We're here to listen, understand, and address the unique needs of you and your community as we age. Our goal is to enrich your experience by expanding our local activities, providing opportunities for you to discover and engage with all that life has to offer right here in your own community and virtually. As we journey through today's event, we invite you to consider joining our dedicated team of AARP volunteers. It's a chance to make a meaningful impact and help us better serve those 50 plus across the nation. Connect with us and be a part of this vibrant movement toward positive change. Welcome. And let's make this event both fun and transformative.
Hola, my name is Alvaro Obregón, Associate State Director for AARP Illinois. AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan membership organization that's been working to promote the health and well-being of older Americans for more than 60 years. I'm so happy to be with you. We're here to talk about the very important topic of brain health. Through this series, we will be talking about several facets of brain health. Joining me today is Juan Diaz, Executive Director and co-founder of Sones de Mexico Ensemble. Bienvenido, Juan. Welcome.
Hola, Alvaro. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited about today's program for many reasons. First and foremost, I've known Juan for many years. We've collaborated in the arts world on many fronts, fought many battles together, always on the same side, of course. So Juan, please tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Sones de Mexico Ensemble.
I'm a musician. I specialize in Mexican music. I went to school for anthropology, and I specialize in a branch of anthropology that has to do with music, so music anthropology. And then I specialized in Mexican music. We founded the group Sones de Mexico Ensemble in Chicago in 1994. So this year, this month, we're recording this in April. So this month marks our 30th anniversary of the group. The reason I'm here, I think, is recently we started a program online for a sing-along for seniors. And we've observed some miraculous effects that music and singing in particular has for some seniors. So we have one of the programs we do is special directed to seniors with memory issues, and we found a lot of benefits to this. So I'm looking forward to sharing some of these stories with you.
As we are, and you're an AARP member, Juan.
Yes, I am.
Great.
For a few years now.
Yeah, we both are. We both are, proud members of AARP. So this is great, Juan. Why don't we get started, and why don't you tell us more about music and the brain?
Very good. Well, we're going to share this slide. Let's keep, we're going to talk about music and the brain. Let me tell you the main point that we want to make. We often hear that that music works a different part of the brain than our regular lives. Maybe while other tasks that we carry out in our daily lives may be entirely okay or functional, just using one part of our brain, whatever it is, some routine task like brewing coffee, washing your dishes, writing, whatever task you're used to, if you're a mechanic, whatever thing you've been doing for many years. They say that making music or even actively listening to music stimulates not just one, but many parts of the brain simultaneously. So one thing that happens as we begin to age is we begin to follow more routines. Maybe we found the best way to do things and through experience and the things that we need to do every day, and we can do them mindlessly now. And maybe we discovered a tried and true routine, and slowly we might lose the ability to experiment, to improvise, or that we do when we are younger. We might be more experimental. We might be lost. We not really know. We don't have the experience as younger people, and we're trying different things. We're moving to different jobs. It kind of keeps us on our toes. But as we gain more experience, we also fall into more routines, and we are not pushed to improvise so much or use other neural pathways besides the well-traveled ones. And let me say, there's nothing wrong with using those well-traveled neural pathways. I mean, that's what we call experience. But what if these pathways were damaged by a natural aging condition or by a disease like dementia that causes memory loss or the loss of other functions? Then we're in trouble. The brain has some redundancy built into it, and sometimes we're able to recover some of these functions by strengthening other parallel pathways. In music making or active music listening, it's one of the activities that is found to stimulate brain function. So let's look at some of these slides that I prepared for you today. These slides is a part of a presentation I did to train some music teachers in our Mexican music school, because this brain functions doesn't always only apply to elderly people. It also to children. We teach children, and we are often told that music works certain parts of the brain, but in order to be a well-rounded musician, you need to be able to work every part of your brain. And there's music making components in every part of the brain. So let's explore this map of the brain and see where different musical activities take place. We'll begin with the frontal lobe here, the motor cortex. This is the red one in the front. Motor cortex is responsible for voluntary muscle movement, voluntary rapid eye movement, that when you're awake, and executive functions. So in music making, this would be the act of playing music or singing, where you can look around where you're executing music, right, at the moment. So the prefrontal cortex also helps us with forward planning and the coordination of movements. So you can look ahead, what's coming up, how you should react in the music that's coming up in the near future. So this comes useful in activities such as composition and improvisation, where you're headed. So if you have a frontal lobe, you are probably going to be good at improvising. So now let's look at the yellow zone, the parietal lobe. The parietal lobes are good for processing spatial relationship between musical notes and instruments. So you use your parietal lobe to see the spatial relationship between musical notes is what we call harmony. So you would be able to harmonize on cue with a given note without instinctually. You could harmonize. You could sing a major chord or a minor chord. That if you have a strong parietal lobe function, you will probably be very good with harmony instinctually. Right, and you will probably also space between instruments. You'll be able to tell the difference between the textural, follow different instruments. That's where active listening comes from. When you're listening to an orchestra, you'll be able to tell if you're listening to an oboe or you're listening to a clarinet or a horn, exactly, and what the distance is between them. All right, so let's explore the next area of the brain. Let's go to the temporal lobe. This is the area in blue, which is the auditory cortex. This is where our inner ear is connected to. And this area of the brain is responsible for sound processing. What we do with sound processing are things like processing pitch, rhythm, timbre, recognizing melodies, harmonies, and patterns. So you could see how the auditory cortex works with parietal lobe with similar functions. And also, if you are someone who has a really good perception of pitch or perfect pitch or a really good sense of rhythm, you probably have a very strong temporal lobe. If you're challenged in some of these areas, you probably have some underdeveloped areas in this part of the lobe. I observe sometimes children in my classes who have natural abilities for pitches, repeating a pitch that they can hear. Other kids don't, and they need to work hard at it. And at that age, it is something that they can develop as they learn to play music. So strengthening the auditory cortex is something you could do in music lessons. Let's go to the occipital lobe. This is the area in green. The occipital lobe processes vision. And vision is also very important in music making. It affects reading music. Also, being able to recognize shapes or in other musicians' hands, where you could recognize a chord or a certain technique in some other musicians' playing. And here it says that the vision or the processing of vision affects reading, but not writing. So writing happens in the frontal lobe, is where our writing ability is located, but our reading ability is in the occipital lobe. So there is the possibility that someone is very, very good music writer, can write music, but not so strong when it comes to reading the music. And that is not surprising and not uncommon because it takes place in different parts of the brain. It also helps people recognize colors, faces. If you're someone who is not a good recognizing different faces, you're not a good face person. Or if you're good with faces, you can't remember people's names, but you definitely know if you've seen somebody's face. You probably have a strong occipital lobe, but you rely on that part of the brain. Optical illusions and hallucinations also happen. They trick your vision, and you may see things that are not really there. That happens in the occipital lobe as well. Let's go down to the purple area, the cerebellum. Cerebellum helps to coordinate precise timing and smooth movements. You've also heard the cerebellum is responsible for equilibrium and balance. It's connected to the ear as well. It's right next to that blue area. So you could see how coordination of precise timing and smooth movements could help you play an instrument, of course. Finally, we have the brainstem. The brainstem is you would call the reptile brain, the limbic system, for processing emotions and reward, pleasure, emotional impact of music. So if you're moved by music in some strange way, it makes you feel excited when you hear upbeat music, or it affects you emotionally. We have you really dramatic music and heart-wrenching music. It is appealing to the deepest, most part of your brain, the brain stem. The hippocampus is the pituitary gland that is right behind the frontal lobe. Um, it is the central processing unit of the brain, and this is where you form and store memories. You could see how memory is good for musicians, remembering songs and techniques and everything. It is also the area that patients with memory issues begin to fail. Those areas, if you've enjoyed a good memory all your life and now you're having some issues, that may be surrounding the hippocampus. And possibly music making could help you work some elements around that hippocampus. In the corpus callosum, this is what connects the two hemispheres of the brain. So it coordinates the right and the left functions of the brain during music making. So next, we're going to see what the two hemispheres of the brain are, because not both sides process exactly the same things. And connecting the two hemispheres also helps you do some workarounds for certain parts of the brain. You know, people that suffer brain damage are also able to recover some functions by doing that. So here's the typical, it's sort of a little cartoon of the brain where you have the left side of the brain, as you've heard, is responsible for the right side, your right hand and your right foot. And they said when you're strong on the right side, you are more of a organizer, a rational person, more of a methodical, linear person. And when you are on the right side of the brain, which controls your left hand and your left foot, you're more of a creative type, an artistic person, etc. And then in the middle there, if you look, you can see some bridges. There's people like crossing, you know, that gap in between. And that is where that corpus callosum, which is really dividing the brain into two halves, but it's very useful to travel back and forth with these functionalities from one side to the brain to the other. So let's look at a list of some of the things that we do with the left side of the brain. This is the quote unquote rational one. And we have, you know, a cartoon of people like in cubicles, you know, little number crunchers there. So music theory and analysis, rhythmic patterns, sight reading, music composition, music technology and production, music math, music history and analysis, memorization challenges, problem-solving challenges, and critical listening. All those skills are worked and very necessary for music making, are done with reliance on the left side of the brain. Now let's look at the other side, the playful side, improvisation and creative play, songwriting, so those creative things, lyric analysis, expressive music listening, storytelling through music, art and music integration, group music creation, music and movement, musical theater, I suppose, and moving about the stage, being an entertainer. Music, number 9, music and as a mood regulator, how to use music to affect other people's emotions and empathy, etc. Number 10, exploring different musical styles, and also has to do with, so imagine if you only had one side of the brain, you would be not a complete musician. It's not true that a lot of people say, oh, you're a musician, you must be strong on your right side of the brain. Well, I think the strongest musician is strong on both sides of the brain. So now, let's finish up our presentation with a couple of more slides. These are slides that I prepared for a sing-along. We have a sing-along online through a program called Age Guide, in the collar counties of the Chicagoland. And there's also the organization called Sounds Good Choir. That is also seniors choir. They're both sponsors and collaborators with my group, with Sones de Mexico Ensemble, and we have this sing-along on the first and third Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. Central Time for a regular senior population, that's 55 and up, and at 12 p.m. for people with memory issues. So this slide is about the benefits of singing for Spanish-speaking seniors in our general population. So how does it benefit? Singing offers a multitude of benefits for Spanish-speaking seniors, including, number one, physical health. Singing promotes good breathing and lung function, good posture, and cardiovascular health. I don't need to explain that. It's pretty self-explanatory. Number two, mental health. Remembering song lyrics promotes mental acuity, Spanish language retention, a sense of belongingness, dopamine release, and overall emotional well-being. I think we all experience those feelings when we listen to music. I mean, why else would you pay to go to a concert if you didn't get all these benefits from it? Also, Spanish language retention for seniors who possibly grew up in a Spanish-speaking context, and in their older years, they were surrounded by English-speaking. They may have lost that Spanish, and in old age, and maybe it comes back, you know, and we get the sense of belongingness by connecting to our culture. Number three, cultural connections. Songs connected to their roots foster a sense of identity and belonging. Songs from our youth can evoke memories of the past and provide a channel for reminiscing about life experiences, traditions, and upbringing. So in this group, this sing-along group that we do, I purposely pick songs from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, which is where a lot of us seniors grew up, and those songs take us back to those years when we were going to a lot of concerts, maybe when we fell in love, when we got married. So it takes us back to a good place in our minds, and evokes good memories, and makes us feel good, and maybe stimulate some of those memory parts of our brains. Number four, storytelling. Singing can be a form of storytelling, allowing Spanish-speaking seniors to share their life stories, cultural traditions, and experiences through the songs they sing. So yes, if I'm beginning to listen to that music from the maybe Jose Feliciano, or maybe we're listening to Miguel Aceves Mejia, or Los Panchos, or some music from our Cri Cri from our childhood, it might elicit memories from that time that you may want to share with your grandchildren or your kids or your friends. You know, it's maybe something you had forgotten about. So it stimulates that as element of their prompts, you know, to let you tell stories. Number five, social interaction. Sing-along groups encourage interaction and camaraderie among immigrant seniors who share similar cultural backgrounds, helping to build friendships and a sense of community, reducing stress, and enhancing our overall mood. I know for a fact that the group of seniors that gets together on my sing-along groups, when we open up the mics and they tell me where they grew up, the kind of music they were listening to, and they all like empathize with each other. It's like, yeah, I used to follow that artist, etc. So that's good. You know, even if we come from different backgrounds or different cities or different countries, even we can all bond over our musical taste. Really works for any age, but it's another benefit. And finally, empowerment. Immigrant seniors might experience a sense of empowerment and pride when sharing their heritage through singing, enhancing their overall self-esteem. So yeah, old age, I don't recommend it, but hey, we can't do much about it. We find ourselves less self-reliant, more reliant on other people, etc. So that makes us lose our self-esteem sometimes because we can't do everything that we used to do. And when you listen to music and it gives you that ownership of your culture again, and the cultural achievement of our culture, that we can share with other people. It's like, see what great music used to be made in the 50s. That's when they really knew what they were doing. None of that boom chaka that they make right now. None of that reggaeton. So that's good. Anyway, let's go to the next slide and look at the benefits of singing for seniors experiencing memory loss. So number one, stimulation. Singing engages various parts of the brain, stimulating cognitive functions and enhancing mental alertness, even in individuals with advanced stages of dementia. Number two, memory recall. Even when memory and cognitive abilities are impaired, music and singing can trigger memories from the past, allowing individuals to engage in conversations and reminisce about their lives. I have certainly experienced this in my sing-along groups as I sing for seniors. Sometimes they have an assistant who sets them up in front of the computer, and they look really almost catatonic, just sitting in front of the computer, very emotionless, almost depressive. And once the music starts happening, they start moving more. Some of them even stand up and start dancing, and they get very talkative. At the end, they get excited. And the effects of this sometimes are long lasting. Some of their caretakers comment that it could last several days, where the stimulation through music and memory may stimulate some memories that they continue to share for several days. So it's great. We also record these sing-along sessions. So if anyone wants to access them in between our bi-weekly sessions, they can replay them and relive those sing-along sessions that we do. So that's another benefit. Improvement in mood. Music and singing release endorphins and trigger positive emotions, leading to improved mood and reduced feelings of anxiety, paranoia, sadness, or depression. We know those four awful feelings we are not alien to these sometimes, especially if you're isolated, you could experience those. And music kind of brings good feelings and good memories, and also moving around. Personal identity. Music and songs from individuals' past can help maintain a sense of personal identity and self, even as other aspects of memory may decline. Loss of identity, another sad effect of memory loss. Who are you and where do you come from? I'm not sure, but the music might bring you back home. Okay, what is this? Number 5, communication. Singing can become a mode of communication when verbal abilities are limited. It provides an alternative way for individuals to express themselves and connect with others. There are things that you can say with a song that you couldn't possibly say with words. All right, you could say that about painting and imaging, but music, when it comes to emotions, it says things you can't possibly say with words. And great communication aid. And we feel sometimes seniors with memory loss feel isolated and unable to communicate. So the song will say things that they can't say anymore, and that provides some release. Promotion of routine. Incorporating regular singing sessions into daily routine can provide a sense of structure and familiarity, helping individuals feel more comfortable. So yes, if you do this every day, I mean, imagine the benefits. I mean, we can only do it with my group. We can only do it once every 2 weeks. But hey, if you could do it every day, I recommend it. Finally, enriching caregiver-client interactions. So a lot of people who come to these sessions come with a caretaker that activates their computer, puts them on Zoom, and so the caregivers can use singing as a tool to connect with individuals with dementia, making caregiving tasks more enjoyable and meaningful. It's always, if you're a caretaker, it's always easier to take care of someone who is not riddled by paranoia and sadness, depression, and anxiety. So if the music puts them in a good mood, why not do it every day, right? So this is what I have, Alvaro. So what do you think? You think there's a connection between music and the brain?
Hey, Juan. Thank you so much. This was a great presentation. I loved it. I think the different ways that people at different levels, right? So you spoke about, you use the example of the work that you're doing, right, with Spanish speakers, but that really, I mean, it could be, it could be somebody in any other community, right?
Yes.
We all have songs that are passed on, through tradition, whether we're, African American, Black, whether we're Irish Americans, whether we're German, we have those connections, and I think that that was one of the things that really stood out to me about
Any age too. I mean, it works for seniors, but it also works for children or adults or any age.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as we know, I mean, we're a country of immigrants, right? So we people are coming from all over. So no matter who you are, music is a great benefit, and I think that was one of the takeaways that I took. I want to ask you a question about, sometimes people think, oh, I'm in my 60s or I'm in my 70s even, or let's say somebody just retired and they've always wanted to learn an instrument. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's important, right? It's never, you hear the term all the time. It's never too late to learn.
I agree. I mean, I think sadly in our Western culture, we've relegated music making to people with talent. And then you say, I don't have talent, so I'm not entitled or I'm not allowed to learn music. You have to, of course, you have to temper your expectations. If you say I'm going to learn to play music, you should have a right to do it, and you will reap a lot of benefits from it, a lot of satisfaction. Will you become a concert master of your local symphony orchestra? Probably not. You're probably not going to reach those levels if you start at 60. I mean, you probably won't reach those levels if you start at 30. You probably have to start at the age of 4 or 5, to get to those levels. But that shouldn't stop you from learning to play music. I mean, look at I have students in their 60s or 70s that have a mobility issues with their hands, maybe begin to shake. They start losing strength in their hands, and music making works those part of the brain that cerebellum that helps with coordination. It helps build that, and while you're doing that, unbeknownst to you, you could also be working on your equilibrium for the entire body. Not just right and left hand coordination on guitar or violin. You're working on other functions. So yes, definitely, it's never too late.
It's never too late to, yeah, absolutely. And one thing that you just said, in terms of listening to music, right? So sometimes those of us who are music junkies, right? We listen to music of all sorts, and and while I have my cultural connections, right, to my culture, right, I'm Mexican, and so those memories. I mean, some of my earliest memories are of my mom singing Javier Solis songs, right?
Yeah.
And my mom is still alive, thank God, right? But um, I sing with her, right? She never learned, she had a beautiful voice, but she was never, she could never read. But you can also be an active listener of music, right? So,
Yeah.
one example that I sometimes use is, as you know, Juan, I go to the symphony a lot, and you know, it, take a piece like Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, right? I'll have a conversation and I'll say, to me, Carlos Kleiber's, when he conducted, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, the second movement is just outstanding. And some people are like, wait, what? Like, doesn't it all sound the same? But there's, when you really are an active listener, like you can hear some of those nuances, right? You might like different versions, right? The tempo is faster, the tempo is slower, and
Yeah. Yeah. I emphasized active listening because it's not just in one ear out the other. You need to exercise your brain when you're listening, and the very simple things you can do. Listen to the lyrics. What is the song saying? How often do we just turn the music on and don't even find out what the singer is saying? So listen to the lyrics. That's the easy one. You can also try to identify what instruments are playing, or if there's different sections in the music. I know classical music tends to have a lot of sections, especially those long compositions. But even in rancheras, you have the chorus and you have the all the stanzas in the song. So even that, the composers of the songs, they use these things for different. Usually the chorus re-emphasizes the main message of the song, like, I just got left by my girlfriend, and that's what comes back in the chorus. They say, you left me, and whatever, and then you come back into the verse,
and then the sad part of the song, right?
get more details about how it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, so you mentioned, Juan, the lyrics, but the lyrics are also, in those musical pieces where there's not any lyrics, there is, if you listen to, so one thing, in terms of the value of all music, right? I sometimes tell people, no one, when people are like, oh, mariachi music, it's just, it's that folk music. But I tell people, in the symphonic world, in the classical music world, I say nobody would ever categorize Bartok or Kodai or Dvorak as just folk musicians, yet their music is based on folk music. And a lot of their compositions, through the music, it's, there might not be any lyrics, but there are, it's evoking, like, the beauty of the countryside, or what have you.
So Alvaro, as you were describing all this, it's coming back, this graphic that we was sharing with the different colored parts of the brain. You're actively listening. You're allowing if you move to the music, you're engaging a certain part of the brain with, like, there it is. You're engaging this the smooth movements. You're dancing. You were talking about the emotional, allowing yourself to feel the emotional appeal of this music. There may be triumphant parts in the Beethoven's Fifth, and then it goes into these smooth and heart-wrenching sections of the music. That's where you're engaging that limbic system in the brainstem, processing emotions and reward pleasure of emotional impact. If you're being very cerebral about the music and you're saying, okay, how is this music section? What's section A, section B? What's then you're using your frontal lobe. If you can detect key changes, there's a transposing of the music and different rhythms and instruments. You're using your temporal lobe. So that's what I'm saying by active listening. With just you sitting on a chair with headphones on, you could practice, strengthen every part of your brain by willing yourself to have a complete wholesome experience, and not just let music in one ear out the other.
Yeah.
Not just background music, that's supposed to be ignored. It's almost like reading a book. You're going to be putting yourself into it and allowing yourself to be moved.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you say background music because people sometimes will say to me, you should listen to, what I listen to is classical music when I want to relax or go to sleep. And I'm the total opposite, right? I can't listen to it because I really get into the music and is it relaxing? Sure, but my mind begins to,
Yeah.
go and follow the whole,
I think going to sleep with music is good. I think you would be using the occipital lobe. When you listen to music to go to sleep, you are beginning to process optical illusions and hallucinations. You're engaging your dream state, fantasizing about maybe some imagery that goes with that music, and transitioning into sleep. And that may help to relieve some of the anxiety that you built up during the day, etc., worries, etc., by letting yourself go. So yeah, I mean, there's one part of the brain for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved, what you said about the music and and you mentioned landscapes and stuff like that. And I remember walking into a classroom with students, and they were singing a Mexican song, Son de mi tierra, if I'm not mistaken, and it was just very mechanical, right? And they were following the music, and I said, okay. I said, let me interrupt, and I asked them, how many of you have been to Mexico with your parents? And some of them had, and some of them had not, but those who raised their hand. And I said, do you remember like how proud like your parents were as they were pointing out, oh, I went to school there. Oh, this is the mercado where we used to buy our food. Look, I went, I got baptized in that church. And it was those emotions. I said, do you remember how excited your parents were? And that really changed the way that they like interpreted the music right afterwards, because it was more than just the lyrics, right? It was more than just the music. They found something different. And so I think that, in listening to music, oftentimes I love finding out why somebody wrote a particular piece of music. And then I try to submerge myself into what they were thinking. And
That's empathy. And
yeah.
Great. So like I mentioned earlier, these charts that I'm sharing with you today were developed for a teacher training, like music teaching training. So even in young people, if you see that a student is challenged with certain aspect of music, maybe they're not reading as well, or they are something else, then you can, as a teacher, you can build exercises that will exercise that part of the brain for the student.
Yeah, Juan, I want to go back also to, you mentioned people with memory loss, and two people come to mind to me. Don Pepe Martinez, who was the music director of Mariachi Vargas for some 20-something years, almost 30 years. He was a dear friend, and they're considered the greatest mariachi in Mexico. And when he had dementia started developing, it was really sad, right? However, I remember seeing this one video, right, and where he was just kind of sitting there, and they recognized him in the audience. They brought him on stage, and they started playing an homage to him, which was one of the pieces that he had written, bilingual, and he grabbed the violin and he suddenly came alive, right? Like he was in that moment. And another person, Tony Bennett, right?
Yeah, it's so miraculous. Tony Bennett back on the stage, and he blossomed. He look completely on, on the spot, everything. And as soon as he walked off the stage, he couldn't remember that he had just performed in front of like 3,000 people.
Right.
It's like, but it's really amazing. And I think what's happening is that even if certain parts of the brain have been damaged, when you engage simultaneously several parts of the brain, you have these workarounds. You're able to process your memory, your any issues that you might be missing, through workarounds, balance, smooth movements, things like that you may have lost. You can recover them during music making. There was a movie about I don't know if it was called The King and I or something about King George, who of England, who stuttered, and
King's Speech.
He had to be he had to be a public speaker, and he stuttered, but he learned that if he sang, he would never stutter when singing. So he developed a style of a delivery of his speeches that was almost like singing, and it had a melody to it, and that helped him overcome his stutter, right? And how does that happen? It's a workaround. You're using the musical pathways in your brain to realize like the functions that you have lost.
Yeah, well, it's certainly, I think that we can, this is this is a topic that we can, talk for hours, because, sometimes it's, I loved, the whole presentation. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
It gave us this great perspective, and, and also, using music as one of the things to integrate within families, within your loved one. Those moments, I think, is one of the takeaways that I've taken from today is, integrating that with, especially with your loved ones as they age, that, maybe sometimes, our parents aren't, my mom has got mobility issues, right? And sometimes she gets down about things. But one thing that wakes her up, that gets her going, even at 92, is I'll say, "Hey, Mom, let's sing this song," and we sing together, right? And she'll correct me if I'm singing the wrong tempo or the wrong lyric, because sometimes the lyrics may change in a song. She's like, "That's not how you. Those aren't the words, mijo." But it's a great thing to integrate with families. Juan, this has been so great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, thanks for the invitation. And if I may, I would like to invite people to engage with our organization. If you like what we do, maybe you can share our website, and you could learn more about those senior sing-alongs, or our classes for youth, and our music instruction for adults. If you want to learn to play an instrument and practice your Spanish. We also have a gala because it's our 30th anniversary, and we're going to have a nice gala dinner. So if you'd like to support what we do.
Yeah, tell us about the when is the gala, and where is it at, and where can people find information about Sones de Mexico Ensemble as well as the gala?
Yeah, I think the date is, I believe, is September 26th. Is a Thursday at the National Museum of Mexican Arts in Chicago, and we will. This should be up on our website at sonesdemexico.com or our Facebook page. You could look at Sones de Mexico on Facebook, and we have events calendars there, and we're always plugging our programs in there.
Yes, and I'll remind folks that Sones de Mexico Ensemble, Sones de Mexico is a nonprofit, and you do great work. 30 years, wow!
Yeah.
Congratulations on what you've done, and congratulations on all the work. And I want to thank you, Juan, so much for being with us today. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I just want to remind everyone that AARP